Hey, what's going on? My name's Phil, and just a couple weeks ago, I got a hold of this dude. It's a Quest M3 coffee roaster, and I'm super pumped about it. I have roasted on these in the past as a sample roaster. However, I've never owned one personally, and I'm super pumped. I'm chilling here in my garage and really excited to take this Mexico Chiapas right here, throw a little bit in it, and walk you through the roast process that I do on it and really just hang out and do some home coffee roasting. So let's get after it. Okay, so I have the fan speed set to 9, and I'll go ahead and turn the heat on to 7.5 right now. And on this one, since it's a Mexico Chiapas, you would expect to have some sort of like chocolate in it. You'll have some bitters, like a cacao kind of flavor to it. And there should be like a little bit of a hint of orange that's going on. So because I'm going to want some of those bitters in the cup, I will draw out the drying phase. I'll draw out the Maillard phase. So I'll kind of blast it at the beginning to get through drying as fast as I can, and then that'll give me some leeway when it comes to the drying. So let's see what we get. So on this, the turnaround likes to be around 200 or so. And this is my first roast of the day on this, so everything's still kind of warming up. All right, we're coming up on the turnaround. And I'm going to go ahead and kick the heat up. I'll put it at 9. That gives me a little bit of wiggle room in case I want to make it pop just a little bit faster. So we'll just kind of leave it alone for a couple minutes and see where it goes. So yeah, turning point right at minute 40, around 200. So that's right on point. All right, so we'll just let this thing do what it does. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and bump the heat up all the way to high. I don't like how slow that turnaround is, or that post turnaround. So let's give it a little more fuel and see what happens. I'm shooting for a rate of rise around 30, but this bean might not want me to go that aggressive. We'll just kind of have to watch and see. This is my first roast on it, so I'm still kind of learning the personality. Now we're getting a nice green coloring going on with it. And we are at 4 minutes. Really around the 7-minute mark, I'm going to want to see the yellowing taking place. And one thing with this roaster is every time I pull the dryer, the airflow will drop. You'll get like a flick down, and then the rate of rise kind of gets a little wonky also. So on the Quest, you do have to limit the number of times that you're messing with the dryer. Just kind of the personality of the roasters. All right, we are at 7 minutes and 15 seconds. The green is pretty much gone from the beans, and we're looking at starting the Maillard now. So we'll go ahead and call that the end of the dry phase. We're at 330 degrees at 7.5 minutes. And we'll see where the rate of rise kind of levels back out at. So now that we're in the development, or like the Maillard aspect of it, this is the part I'm going to try and draw out. So I'm slowly going to be lowering the heat input, and really I'm going for first crack around the 10-minute mark. It's kind of my goal, or 10.5 minute mark. I don't want to go longer than a 12-minute roast on this because I'm still trying to preserve some of the citric acidity. All right, so we're at 360 degrees, 8.5 minutes. I'm going to dial the heat back. I'll drop it down from 10 to 9. I'm going to drop it down a little bit more. We're coming up on first crack. I'm going to put it around 8. Okay, we're coming into first crack. I'm at 7. And we'll start slowing it down, trying to go for about an 11-minute right here. Okay, there's first crack. Gonna drop the heat down. We're at 5. Okay, that's the end of first crack. So we're looking at about a minute. I'll let it go to about 11:15. I really don't want to go above 420 on the end temperature with this one. And 420 on this roaster is, these probes are about 10 degrees hot. All right, gonna go ahead and kill it. There it is. So a little darker than what I'd want. But, all right, so we'll cup it and see what we get. All right, we are back. It's been 4 days since the roast, so the coffee's had a good chance to degas and really show us what it has. Now, after the video that you all just watched, I did a second roast, and I will post a picture of a side-by-side of the two coffees. The first roast was 420 degrees at 11 minutes, 20 seconds. The second roast was 407 degrees at 12 minutes, 30 seconds. So my intent with the second roast, I wanted something that was a little lighter. I just sort of assumed that 420 degrees was going to start getting too bitter, and I wanted to try something that would bring out more of that citric acid. More of that orange is what I was going for, or assumed orange in the coffee. So I did a little bit lighter roast, but I still wanted that chocolate in there, so I drew out the Maillard phase. So if you look, and I'll put the profiles up on the screen. So if you look after drying, which was about 7 minutes 30 seconds, I forgot to chart it here, but the drying phase, my rate of rise went down, and I held it pretty steady around 14 to 16 uh, uh, degrees per minute. And what I was trying to do was just elongate that Maillard reaction time to hopefully balance some of the acid with some of the bitters, like some chocolate going on. So that was kind of my intent on going a little bit longer roast at a lower temperature. So preserve some of the citric acid, but create more of the chocolate. So we'll see what we got. Now I'll start with the first roast here, the 420 degrees at 11 minutes 20 seconds. The nose on this one, when I brewed it, I brewed both of these using a V60. It was a 1 to 17 ratio, and coffee to water ratio. Now the nose, when I ran this first roast through the grinder, it was definitely like a lot more appealing. It had more characteristic, definitely had that chocolate, and so we'll see what we got. Yep, there's definitely some chocolate in there. I do taste bitters, like that dark cacao. And the acid it tastes more like malic, like green apple. So not very much orange, honestly. Okay, so let's go to the second roast, which was 407 degrees, 12 minutes, 30 seconds. Holy cow. This one definitely has almost like a lime undertone. More like key lime. It still has like sweet, like an orange, but there's definitely some of that lime-like acidity. Less body, um, which is not surprising considering it was a lower in temperature, so less of the bean has broken down during the roast. It's very refreshing, honestly. Very delicate. Uh, I would kind of equate this one to like an Ethiopian Yirgacheffe. Like it has that light body. There's a little bit of floral to it. Um, very delicate, and you have just like a gentle acidity on the back end. I'll go back to the first. Now this one's like, this would be an all day drinker, to be honest. Like this would be like a good house blend or house like coffee, medium roast. Yeah, and the second one would be great iced. Oh my gosh, like it just has that floral. And I did run both of these samples through my espresso vision, and they came in at 16 on the lighter roast and then 18 on the darker roast. So darker. So they're both like a solid medium roast. And when you look at the picture of the two beans, there's really not a lot of difference. I will say the first roast that went to 420, there's oil actually on the bean. And the second one that I did actually has some tipping. So the second roast, I did have a higher charge temp by quite a bit. It was about 90 degrees higher. And then the turnaround was 40 degrees higher. So if I were to do a third roast on this one, my initial charge on this roast was 291 versus about 380. I would find somewhere in the middle and get a turning point somewhere in the 220 range, because this was too aggressive on the front end, caused some tipping, which tipping doesn't show up until later in the roast, but it happens at usually like the early stages. So yeah, I'm pleased with both of these, to be honest. So I'll dink around with the third roast just kind of on my own and find a happy medium. But honestly, I'm really pleased with both of these. Um, I think just changing that beginning charge temp, change the turnaround, and honestly, I'm gonna stick with that little darker roast. It's more of an all day. They're both fantastic though. So anyway, Mexico Chiapas for the win. I have some great samples from Royal Coffee Imports that I'm going to start playing with. I'll record some videos on those, and we'll kind of go through the same process. And anyway, just geek out with coffee and learn together. So love you guys. Appreciate you. Stay tuned in the very near future for some more videos, this time from coffee at Royal Coffee Imports. Peace out, guys. Appreciate you. Love you.